All right, we're recording. Hey, I wanted to share with you something in this wood shedding that will help you a lot. And it's all about the diminished scale. And I've talked about this before, but I've done a lot of teaching and I've come up with a way that I understand it, how to use it easier and better, that I think I'd like to pass that on to you. I think you will find this pleasing and maybe illuminating in terms of the mystery of that scale and how to use it. First of all, I need to say that scales are not the end, they are just linear passages. And if you can think of it as a linear passage instead of a scale, then it can be a little bit more flexible. In other words, a lot of times when we're playing a riff or a line that appears to be scale-like, linear, it may be changing note qualities depending upon the harmony that's going on underneath. You may have heard me say this before, but if you haven't, this is the first time. It's all good. That's why I'm going to repeat myself sometimes, many times in these videos, is you can't change what you say in a solo until you change the harmony underneath it. If you noticed before playing things that didn't sound so right, they should work, but they didn't sound right. It's because you didn't develop the harmony underneath it in order to make that statement make sense. So just playing some wild scale, as you found, doesn't give you any results because you didn't develop underneath. That was the supportive part that the ear could hear and develop in the harmony. So today we're going to look at how to play a diminished scale and where it comes from. And so this may forever change when you read lead sheets. We talked about the augmented scale in one of these woodshed videos. Now we're going to talk about how to use the diminished scale. Okay, and I do believe in symmetry, and eventually I'll probably make one video that wraps all this stuff in together, okay? But, we have 12 semitones in an octave. If you take 12 divided by 3, you get 4. You get 4 chords, which make up the augmented or the whole tone scale that we discussed. But when you take if you take 12 and you divide it by 4, you get 3 diminished chords in those 12 notes. Okay, and there's the symmetry that I'm talking about. 12 divided by 3, 12 divided by 4. Okay, so let me go to the keyboard and explain this. Okay, there are 4 diminished chords. And just to help clarify something in case you ever get confused, the difference between a diminished chord and a diminished 7th chord is one is 3 notes and one is 4 notes. That's it. Don't read any more into it. When you look at a dominant 7, for instance, like C7, and you remove the root, you got the 3, the 5, and the 7. These 3 notes together all by themselves without the C bass, these represent a diminished chord. Okay? It's simple as that. This is E diminished. Now, you'll notice that the intervals, this is the 12 divided by 4 parts. This is a 4-note chord, so in order to complete this equation, we can add one more minor third. And that's known as E diminished 7. E diminished, E diminished 7. So in the future, When you see someone talking about a diminished 7, they're talking about a 4-note chord of minor third intervals, 12 divided by 4. There are 3 of these chords. There's this one, there's that one, there's that one. That's an inversion of the first one. There's only 3 of these chords. 3 times 4 notes equals 12 notes. Okay, so if I played C bass with these 3, this is called C dominant 7. There's only one of these in every key. You'll know that these are also known as the capital V, the 5 chord. Capital meaning major, right? Major third. Dominant 7. There's only one in every key. If you want to find out what key this is in, all you have to do is make a triad where C is on top. So if I play F major triad, C is on the top, 1, 3, 5. C7 is the 5th chord in the modal sequence of the key of F major. There's the 1, there's the 2, that's called the Dorian, the 2 minor 7. There's your Phrygian, the 3 minor 7. There's the 4th one, a very interesting chord called the Lydian. Notice that it's a major 7. So we had a major 7 and a major 7. But we had 2 minor 7s so far. When we get to the 5th position, C, we make a chord, has to have B flat because we're in this key of F. There's only one of these in every key. So C7 forever will be perpetually married to the key of F. That's why they call this the Mixolydian, because the Mixolydian is the 5 chord, and all that means that if you were to play a scale, okay, a diatonic scale, you would start on C, but you have to include the B flat. So starting the F major scale from the 5th note of the F major scale, which makes this C7, you would play the F major scale starting on C, and just for the name of that, that's what I like about modes. I don't think you need to actually, really get into all of the names, but some of them it's nice to know, especially when it comes to the 5 chord. And a lot of you probably already know the Dorian and the Mixolydian. That's the Mixolydian scale. The 5 chord is where all the fun is, mama. Because if you take this 3 and 7 of C, there is something called the tritone that you've heard me talk about that brings in all of the fun, mama. The tritone is exactly halfway around the clock. If you look at C7, this is E diminished. This is C7. It's called C7 because it's a 4-note chord, and 7 meaning dominant 7. See how this is working? This would be C major. This would be C7. When I get rid of it, this is E diminished. Okay? If I take these 2 notes and move the bass halfway around the clock, that's 2 minor thirds, either way up or down. This becomes F sharp 7, but only these 2 notes are shared between the 2. Everything that belongs to C7 in this Mixolydian scale that belongs to the key of F, other than these 2 notes, would be altered tones as far as this F sharp 7. But the reason why I say that this is where all the fun is, mama, there's a song that says that. that when you go to the F sharp, you start to introduce new colors that can be played in to this C7 that end up giving it alterations, not to be confused with the altered scale, but alterations. So if we were to take this E diminished chord, 3-note chord, and add the 4th note to make this a diminished 7 chord, lo and behold, we have a E diminished 7. When we play a C bass, this becomes C7 flat 9. So to forever understand, next time you see flat 9 on the sheet of paper, the music, it's not to get stressed out about. It's just a complete diminished 7 chord, rootless. It's known as E diminished 7. Rooted with C, it becomes C7 flat 9. Now what's cool about symmetry, 12 divided by 4 and 12 divided by 3, is when you look at this minor third, minor third, minor third, can you see another symmetry? There's a pattern. So the scale or the linear representation of this voicing, forget the C bass, just looking at this all by itself, is simple. They say it's whole half, that takes you a minor third. Whole half brings you a minor third. Whole half brings you a minor third. Whole half brings you a minor third. This being the 3, the 5, the 7, the diminished chord that's within C7. The diminished 7 brings out C7 with a flat 9. When you make the scale, notice whole half. That note will be in all of our altered scales. Why? Because it is the tritone. It's the whole reason why these things start to happen, because this being C7 flat 9, that's an altered note. It does not belong to the F major scale or the C mixolydian scale. It's an alteration, and it comes about because of F sharp. The tritone starts to bring in all of these colors, and the only time you can use this is when you're ready to make a move. Okay? So when you're ready to move from C7 and resolve it to F, then that baseline rule of a half step above ends up bringing all of these colors that come in from F sharp 7 that don't belong to these two that are shared, but the extra colors that are different for F sharp's B major key versus C7, which is F major's key. Notice if I just use that says C9. There's C flat 9. It's got an alteration. Check out the notes though. This is your sharp 11, 5, 6 or 13, dominant 7, flat 9, raised 9, 3, sharp 11. So when we play the diminished scale that belongs to E diminished 7 over C, we're going to play those colors. So you can safely say that if you see C7, raised 9, or sharp 9, however you look at it, it belongs to the same linear passage that includes this and this. Because this is the whole reason why the color comes in the first place. Now, how can we easily identify how to play this? That's what the whole purpose of this video is. I'm going to give you that now. The secret, now that we've I've explained the theory behind 12 divided by 4, 4 notes. There's 3 of these. So you can see safely now that this now, when I added this 4th note, makes that C7 flat 9. Okay? Let me show it to you from the 2 position. The 2 position of F. Because guess what? When you're going to play this chord and start to alter it, you're going to be going back to F. So let's start with the 2 of F. G minor 7. If I was to play a linear passage for G minor 7, I would play the Dorian scale, which is the F major scale starting on G. This scale is the same scale as F major and the same as C mixolydian. Notice they're all F major scales. They're diatonic. You say to yourself, that is just kind of boring. Well, it's the diatonic representation of F major from its positions, the 2, which we know as Dorian, and the 5, which we know as mixolydian. Now, let's bring in all the fun. Mama. If we take G minor 7, the 2, and we take the 2 top notes and drop them a half step when we touch C. Notice we just brought in the 3, the 5, the 7. Ooh, we just made a diminished 7 chord. So from G, whole half, whole half, whole half, whole half. It's the same scale, the same diminished linear passage as if you started it from here, whole half, because it gets to G, right? So think about doing this as an exercise. Go G minor 7, G diminished 7 over C. And you can easily identify where to start that diminished scale, the linear passage that's diminished, that's whole half, whole half, whole half. So the exercise would be play G minor 7, play the Dorian scale, which is F major, starting on 2, move to the 5 bass, but drop the 2 top notes half step each. That way you now have a G diminished 7 over C, aka C7 flat 9 when it's rooted with C. And go back and play the same passage, but now play whole half. And resolve. So it sounds like this. And that's how you will quickly start to get into your hands how to go from Dorian to diminished and start making new lines. All I'm doing is Dorian of G minor, which is F major. Then when I went to the C, I changed it. So see if you could start coming up with linear passages now that explain or describe this new harmony of Dorian, diminished, you'll start to come up with new phrases. So if you're looking for linear passages, then we're going to go to Dorian to diminished 7, knowing now that G diminished 7 over C. Wow. Now if I move the inversion here, guess what? If I play C7 raised 9, flat 9, I can say so no matter if I'm holding a raised 9 or a flat 9, let me make this a little more quiet. So from this G minor position, even though we'll talk about this kind of chord in another linear passage that we can do, you'll notice that this note in itself, though, can be included in the harmony now. When you go from Dorian, let me make this an octave lower. So start practicing. Notice I'm pedal toning a C bass. Do you remember the video I made about making suspensions? Well, when you play the G minor 7 over a C bass, that is a form of a suspended 4. So by playing the Dorian and a G minor chord Dorian over this 5 bass C, you get the suspension. Now it's not suspended anymore, but it's also been altered. So you can say, start coming up with new combinations of Dorian diminished. Okay? So that was in the key of F. Let's just quickly look at it in the key of C. All right, well, let's start real quickly and decipher what's going on here. If I go make a C major triad, there's going to be my 5 chord, right? G7, right? So we're going to think of the 2 chord, D minor first. We're going to drop these 2 half steps to G7, flat 9, this being an altered tone now because G7 and D flat 7 share just these 2 notes. But because of this note, it allows me to start adding, because we're getting ready to move to C, right? So we could say, hold a G bass, play the D minor 7, play the Dorian, which is a C major now, drop the 2 halves, now play whole, half, and we've got the same result. Oops, I'm sorry. Isn't that gorgeous? So take some time, go around the clock, so to speak. And when you say going around the clock, move in circle of 4s. Start with C7, then go to F7, then go to B flat 7. And remember that these dominant sevens are always going to be the fifth note of the scale they belong to diatonically. We're going to superimpose the 2 chord. Then we're going to drop the 2 notes half step so that we make a diminished 7th chord. But with the bass, it becomes a flat 9, knowing that the raised 9 and the sharp 11 end up being part of the linear passage. Wow, have you grown a lot just understanding this? So have fun. Thank you for taking your time, and please share in the forums your comments and thoughts and how to help each other, because it's all about helping each other. God bless you. Make it a good day, okay? See you soon. Just do it. See ya.